In our tribe, when the liquefied natural gas plant from Puget Sound Energy was being put on our ancestral homelands without our consultation or consent, a group of tribal members got together, and they're called the Water Warriors. And I have the honor and privilege of introducing Dakota Case, our Water Warrior.
Thank you, sis. Thank you for the introduction. Tual Galapu de Isha, de Siaya, Dakota Case Teetsta, Tual Chut Spuala, to all my honorable relatives and friends. My name is Dakota Case. I come from the Puyallup Nation. In 1854, we signed a peace treaty with the United States. And Governor Stevens made two promises to us during the signing of these treaties. They allegedly call these peace treaties, but peace is one thing that we haven't known, because 100 years less than 100 years less after signing them, did we have to fight for these rights? Did we have to fight for our inherent ways of life? You see, my grandparents started fighting in the 50s and fought well through the 60s and 70s. They fought for our fishing rights. You guys may know it as the fishing wars. But during those fights, they made a lot of great allies. White people and black people alike. The Black Panthers sat at my grandmother's table. My grandmother was arrested during Dick Gregory's fast sitting in Thurston County Jail when Dick Gregory came down here and sacrificed to himself. He sat in Thurston County Jail for 30 days and completely did not eat during this whole fast. The judge finally begged his wife. The judge finally begged his wife and told him, "Will you get your husband to eat?" And she looked at him. She said, "My husband's willing to die for these Indians." This was during the Poor People's March. Now back to the Medicine Creek Treaty. Back to the signing of the Medicine Creek Treaty and these two promises that Governor Stevens made us during the signing of these treaties. He said these treaties shall remain intact as long as the trees grow and the rivers run. Well, our trees are burning and our glaciers are drying up. So where does that leave us? Promise number 2, you sign these treaties or you'll walk knee deep in the blood of your people. That's the signing of a peace treaty with the United States of America. So you look at our fights, and our fights have always been parallel. Black people and Native people, always parallel. I may not identify as a black man, but one of my ancestors was a freed slave. He came to the Snohomish people and married one of my grandmothers. That's our history, a freed slave. That's our history right here. That's how parallel our fights are. I have that DNA, that trauma. And that trauma is one thing I want to talk about, that trauma that we face every day. That trauma has been getting to a lot of us, that historical trauma. We've been everywhere. We've been everywhere, standing here on the front lines in Seattle, the front lines in Olympia, the front lines in Tacoma, the front lines in Portland. And we've seen it all. Seen people get snatched up by these federal agents. Seen people get blown up by these cops for demanding justice peacefully. And at these same rallies, we get to see the Proud Boys standing there with their AR-15s, the only ones that pose a real threat to the crowd, and get handshakes from these cops. See, we may not be paper people. That's why I'm grateful to everybody that knows their positions inside of these movements, because a lot of us are just frontliners. All we have is our bodies to offer, and we put our bodies out there willingly. Because I got to wake up and I got to look at my nephew that's black. I got to look at my brother that's that looks blacker than his dad because of our freed ancestor slave, and know that I want justice. I want justice in our communities. I want to know what it's like to live equally next to our brothers and sisters that are white. To know what it's to live equally. Live equally. I know what it's like. I grew up on the east side of Tacoma, involved with gangs, everything. So I know the belly of the beast. I grew up in foster care, so I know the belly of the beast. I went to Washington State Penitentiary. I know the belly of the beast. This system is built against us. This system was built against us on our backs. So we stand here and we demand justice. We demand justice for all the black people killed this year by police brutality. We stand here and we pump our fist in the air for all of our brothers and sisters that are still fighting on the front lines. That is solidarity. We stand here. We stand here. I was talking to my grandmother about this before I came here. I was talking to her about it. And she was telling me, Dakota, back then it was black power. And now it's Black Lives Matter, and we're still standing here 4 generations later demanding justice with everybody. And I'm grateful for every white ally that's standing here that wants to know this and sees the injustice that we face every single day. I'm tired of having to explain it to my friends that live with privilege and are blind to it. I have white friends that I have to explain the privilege to them of being pulled over by the police officer and him asking me why my hands are in the air. I said, bro, I'm used to an AR-15 being in my neck because I have a record. You can get out and trip on this cop and say whatever you want. If I got out and did that, I'd be laying right there on the ground. Another justice shirt. That's what we have to end. I look at it and we're 5 generations into this. I got to pass it on to my sons. This is a fight that's going to be passed on to my sons. My sons get to get on Facebook and see everything that's happening. I have a 13-year-old son that when we show up to these rallies and we walk by Tacoma Police Department, I let them know to raise their hands and let the cops know that we're unarmed. That's what we know from Tacoma Police Department. See, growing up in the streets, we had that we don't talk about mentality. It comes from the boarding school. You don't talk about anything. You shut up and you be quiet and you don't snitch. That is boarding school mentality. That is what they wanted to bred into us, is to not speak on anything so they can get away with everything that they're doing. That came straight from the United States government. Yeah. You don't speak on anything. You don't speak on the injustices. Well, nowadays we speak on the injustices that we face in the streets. I tell all of our young brothers and sisters all the time when I get out there and try to be the mentor that is missing from my generation. You see, they took everything away from us. They took our language away from us. They took our culture away from us. They took our spirituality away from us. Oh, they tried to take our spirituality away, but we're still here and we're still fighting. So with that being said, we opened up in the language. That language is the first language of this land. The first language of this land. If you've never been welcomed to this land by the Puyallup people, welcome to our homelands. Welcome to our territory. We appreciate every single person that is here, and we raise your spirits to the sky. That is what is raising our hands, is raising your spirit to the sky. So I reach up as high as I can, and I raise our black brothers and sisters as high as I can, and I raise your hearts to the sky. And we stand here and say, Black Lives Matter together. So when my sister talking about the fishing, that is true systematic racial discrimination, whatever you want to call it. We deal with the pollution. See, in the 1960s during the fishing wars, the game warden said that we overfished our rivers. That's why the salmon were gone. But I remember, our ancestors remembered a time when the salmon used to be 100 pounds, almost 6 feet long. They said it was us that was overfishing these waters, but the whole time it was pollution from these facilities that they put right on our reservations. You look at the placement of U.S. oil, you look at the placement at the one in Swinomish, you look at all the tar sands exactly where they come from. It's systematic oppression. You take away the food source and you kill the indigenous people that are there. And you look at the charts that suffer on the system. It goes indigenous people, people of color, and then white people. To fully feel the effects of climate injustice. You see, I was out there with my sons, and my sons are starting to become lost because my sons want to learn how to live our inherent ways of life, how to smoke salmon, how to harvest it. But guess what? There isn't out there anymore. We did 15 drifts straight. 15 drifts straight, and we caught 2 salmon. 2 salmon and 15 drifts. My heart is absolutely broken because this is what my sons get to see in their generation, but I still get out there and bite tooth and nail and try to catch as many salmon as I can so I can show them how to live our inherent ways of life, how to live off these lands. So with that being said, I love every single person here. I love every single person out here demanding justice on the front lines, that are doing the paperwork, that are coming up with the strategies, that are coming up with the plans. Know your place in the movement. Know your place in the movement. Hoyov Chud, I am finished.
Can I get a DVD?